TV is changing, and I don't mean by the things you see in glossy marketing campaigns. Bigger screens, sharper pictures and better sound. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Consumers are increasingly trading high-quality television experiences for low-resolution online video clips, which can be watched on demand, sideloaded onto portable devices, discovered through social networks, forwarded to friends and embedded in blogs. And nowhere is that happening faster than in the fluid media culture of China. With its large urban youth population, fast broadband and a loose copyright environment, China's a kind of future lab for where media consumption might go next. Consider the top 3 uses of the internet by Chinese netizens: music, messaging and movies. Only 57% use email. To find out whether we could really see the future of television by looking at China, I decided to jump on a plane. First up was Ogilvy China. Kaiser Kuo, a former heavy metal guitarist and now head of digital strategy for Ogilvy, had some very clear views about where he saw the future of media and also Chinese consumers.
For young urbanites in China, it's very, very clear that most people are not consuming television, broadcast television, nearly the degree that they used to. Young internet-savvy people can watch what they want on demand on any number of channels, be they the peer-to-peer download, progressive download sites, which have really proliferated in China because of this atmosphere of laxity. I mean, they don't go after pirated content so much.
So the joke is that the online game market in China is so large just because the regular terrestrial broadcasting, cable broadcasting is so terrible. And it may appeal to an older generation with basically the variety show format, but the younger generation has gone online for their entertainment, whether it's downloading movies and games or music, or basically watching things on video servers like Tudo or Youku.
Although they may look like Oriental clones of YouTube, video sharing sites in China actually have many subtle differences, both in the types of content they host and the way that consumers interact with them. To get a better idea of how they worked, I spoke with Jeremy Goldkorn, a noted blogger, media commentator, and writer of the site Downway.
So, should we walk and talk?
Yeah.
The reason they're so popular is partly because there's a lot of copyright material on them, including feature-length films, which are divided into segments. And they're, Korean historical dramas, Chinese TV programs, Western TV programs, all of these are available. And there is a fair amount of user-generated stuff as well. It's free to watch this entertainment. And it seems to me more suited to the generation of young urban Chinese who are internet native in the sense that they've pretty much grown up with the internet, and they find TV boring.
With all the major players, the amount of user-generated content is much lower. The percentage is much lower than you'd find on a YouTube. You think of them sort of as a cross between YouTube and Hulu, where you have a lot of professionally produced content that sits alongside user-generated content. It's not like Youku. It's probably about 45% of it is professionally produced content.
That seemed interesting, so I asked the founders of 2 of the largest video sites in China why professional content was so important.
Well, when we first started thinking about Youku, we really liked the product model of YouTube, but we realized that from a content strategy standpoint, it wouldn't really work in China. The basic reason is the situation in China for both traditional media as well as user-generated content is vastly different. Looking at the user-generated video standpoint first, you realize that actually the history of DV and DC in China is actually much shorter. The number of people and the sophistication of the content being produced is much less as well as not as strong.
It's very difficult for a traditional broadcaster to make the step from traditional broadcasting to a online video broadcasting. It's a whole different world. I mean, they're not really part of the user who's watching it. So what's happening right now is actually they try to license their shows to us, and we're making deals with them to show their shows on Tudo, because I think it's very difficult for them to set up a website themselves and show only their content.
Traditional media, unlike the US, is actually very, very fragmented here in China. We're talking about hundreds of television stations and thousands of television and film production companies. So for Youku, we actually work with a lot of these traditional media partners to syndicate this content on our on-demand video platform.
The biggest difference between China and the West is the amount of time that people spend on the sites. If you look at the average user on Tudo, for example, he or she spends almost 1 hour per session on the site. So that means the moment somebody logs on, he's going to be there for 1 hour on average to watch videos. If you see that if you look at YouTube, for example, there it's between 7 and 12 minutes.
The fast-growing new media sector hasn't gone unnoticed, either by Western VCs or local regulators, who realise now that online video may soon surpass television as a primary means of communication.
We've seen over $300 million of venture capital flood into 8 sites alone of these online video lookalikes like YouTube's of China. And retroactively, the government's been erecting barriers by saying, well, these sites need to get a license, and they've been favoring certain sites that kind of toe the line and penalizing others that don't.
I mean, I would really see this as a new distribution platform. It has already become one. China has 210 million internet users at the end of 2007, and 170 million of those are video users. So it's really a platform that cannot be ignored by the content providers. And given the piracy issues in China, I think it's really to everyone's advantage to seriously take a look at online platform as a distribution medium.
Major Hollywood content producers like Sony Pictures Entertainment, Time Warner and Disney are now looking at digital distribution in Asia, but it's still early days.
Clearly the trends that are observing some of these territories, and particularly Korea, I think is an interesting test bed for what could potentially happen in other markets. With broadband penetrations, above 85%, with broadband speeds of greater than 100 megabits per second, the speed with which you download a movie is really rapid, and that's affecting many parts of the overall entertainment business and the value chain.
In Asia, we've seen actually a real demand for, it's really free on demand. It's advertising supported business. And that's really been what's driving most of the growth across Asia. What we're trying to figure out is how do we take our traditional businesses where we license our movies to TV broadcasters and also have the ability to do the digital distribution models, because oftentimes those broadcasters want to have those rights as well. So we're in this transitional period where we're trying to figure out what the best way is to capitalize on these new distribution mechanisms.
I asked Terry Mack from Celestial Movies whether the free-on-demand model would work with his library of films.
I don't think so. Advertising model works only when there are a lot of consistent viewing, mass market. But if you talk about getting advertising for a very small niche channel, advertising revenue as a percentage of the total revenue would usually be small.
However, there's no doubt that in Asia, dealing with free is going to be the biggest challenge. And that may mean coming up with strategies to co-opt the pirates and the ecosystem of P2P downloading networks.
A good example is the recent Chinese blockbuster Redcliffe. What they are doing is they're basically putting the movie on all the video distribution websites in China, BitTorrent, whatever other download sites, and they finance that with advertising. So it's in a unique format that forces users to watch advertising before they watch the movie, but it will basically follow the user behavior where they go to download movies, and they will only find that one version of the movie, that copyrighted version of the movie on these sharing websites, and it's paid for by advertising.
The pirates and the distributors of pirated goods today could be the legitimate retailers of tomorrow. I mean, DVD shops in China that are selling illegal DVDs have top 10 lists, and they have customer incentive programs and things like that. So is there some way, whether it be offline or these online video sites, that they somehow embrace or work with partners from overseas in a way which the government can approve of? This is the big question.
In part 2 of this series, we explore how the social web in China is shaping the way that consumers discover both content and brands. It's TV, just not as you know it.